this is the Module 11 introduction video. So in this module, we're going to start looking at the idea of statistical inference. So up to this point, when we've been looking at data, we've been looking at it as descriptive. And so what that means is we've been taking the data and we've been making summaries, and those summaries really are just at face value. So we really can only say, this percent of the sample did this, or this was the mean of the sample. So we've strictly been talking about describing the sample. Now, ideally, typically what we want to do is we want to describe what's happening in the population, but we only have sample data. So in order to do that, what we typically do is we will take those descriptive pieces that we saw in the sample, we call those statistics, and then we'll quantify the uncertainty in those statistics. And that will help us give ranges for reasonable values of the parameter, or to ask questions about the parameter that we can answer based on that information that is in the sample or in the statistics. Now, in order to be able to do that, we first need to kind of step back and we need to talk a little bit about what it means to have a random sample and how statistics behave when they come from random samples. And so this module you'll find is just a little bit more theoretical than the other ones that you've seen, but not bad. We're not doing any proofs or complicated mathematics, nothing like that. It's just conceptually it's a little bit harder. And the reason for that is the way that we're going to talk about data is probably different than how you've typically thought about data. So usually when you go out and you collect data, you only get a single sample, whereas here we're going to be talking about, well, what would happen if we could collect multiple samples? And from each of those samples we calculated the statistic. Would the statistic be the same from each of the samples? And you'll find out that the answer is no, there's going to be some variability, and we'll talk about, well, what is that behavior? What does that look like? And if that behavior is predictable, can we then use that to help us, determine that uncertainty in the statistic so that we can say something reasonable about the parameter? And so again, you'll see this module is a little bit different compared to some of the other ones that you've seen before. We're going to introduce the idea of what's called the sampling distribution and then move into confidence intervals, which you have heard of before. So as always, if you have any questions, you need help with anything, please reach out. I'm more than happy to help, and I hope that you have a wonderful week.